you know, Jesus tells us, don't be deceived. Don't go after those people. People start going to tell you that, you know, Jesus is coming this year or Jesus is coming this week. And there have been many of these things. One group figured out when Jesus was coming. They figured wrong, but they figured. And they went out and with their credit cards ran up all the credit they could run and just spent and lived. I don't know what they did, ate chocolate shakes or what they did. And then they, when Jesus didn't come on the day appointed, they had to settle up with the bank, you know, and were bitterly disappointed. And others went and met on a mountain, you know, and they were there ready to be raptured, but finally had to go home. So again and again we see this happen. And so Jesus is saying, don't be deceived. Notice back in Matthew 24, you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled. Again, like be deceived, be troubled. That, oh no, this is the time. You know, when we have something like World War I or World War II, or, you know, we got bombs now that could kill millions of people and so forth. These are troubling things, but Jesus said, don't be troubled in the sense that you think this is the end of the world. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and pestilence and earthquake in different places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. And so here is where he mentions earthquakes. And now, you know, there have always been wars and rumors of wars. There have always been earthquakes and famines and widespread sicknesses, pestilence. And I believe it's again in Luke 21, when Jesus mentions that. Verse 9, you will hear of wars and commotions. You know, that could be the, you know, they don't like to call them wars nowadays. Man-caused, what is it? Man-caused disasters. But they could call them commotions. And be not terrified. Now that's interesting because one of our main things we have today is terrorists that try to terrify you. So see how accurate and up to date the King James Bible is? Okay. Now, but there have always been these things, and yet I believe we can say that Jesus is implying, and what he goes on to say later about great earthquakes, or, you know, and the sea and the waves roaring like a tsunami. But all of these type of things that he mentions that they were there's going to be something special about them. Not just, I mean, like for instance, now in the last century we've had world wars. We've always had wars. Suddenly now we're having world wars where many nations get together. And some of the things we've done recently, you know, the United Nations and the nations getting together and so forth. And the earthquakes. Now, you know, there is statistics and people have tracked this, and you can, they say that they're getting more and more earthquakes and they're getting bigger and bigger and so forth. That certainly seems to be, doesn't it, in and certainly we're hearing more about it in these days. And, you know, like the earthquake in Haiti killed so many, and this hurricane in Burma that killed so many, and the tsunami now in Japan, and so forth. It seems like we're having a major hurricane every month. Now, so anyway, Jesus said, this isn't the end, but this is the beginning of sorrows. And so it's kind of like the Lord is saying these are some of the signs that you can tell things are beginning, the end is beginning to come. Now, can we pinpoint that and say, aha, this shows us that the end will come in 7 years? Jesus doesn't go into that much detail about it. But he tells us not to be troubled and worried about that. And yet when these things happen, you always have false prophets coming forth saying, oh, the sky is falling, the end of the world. You know, many Christians can be Republicans or Democrats. You don't have to be a Republican to be a Christian. You don't have to be a conservative to be a member of this church. Conservatives, we have liberals, and as Christians. So I'm not wanting to make a point about that. But what some of the people have started talking about global warming, and that this is caused by man, and that we need to impose all these taxes, and they were talking about, maybe 30 years ago, they were talking about the world would come to an end in 10 years, and you know, the water's going to rise a certain amount, and you know, there was a island, I saw this on TV, and this happened in another place in Thailand. And there was an island out in the bay in Thailand, and the water was getting higher and higher. It's global warming. The ice is melting, and the water is rising. And Maury Middleton said to him, well, you know, water seeks its own level. Why isn't the water getting higher here on the beach? You know, where we are. Why isn't the water getting higher here? I don't know, they said. He said, you know, maybe that island is sinking. You know, maybe there's under the, going down all the way to the bottom of the ocean, maybe this island is sinking and some of the foundation is crumbling. Oh, wow. Saw that on, you know, NBC News or whatever, too. You know, there was an island, and, oh, look, we can prove global warming because the water, this island's getting lower and lower and lower. The water's getting higher and higher. But they never even thought that it could be the island sinking instead of the water rising. And they use these things to make money for themselves, to promote fear, to try to get elected, to try to control industry. And many conservatives say, hey, you know, this is bad science, and you know, we're not going to fall for that, and we're going to fight against it. But let us do be careful of this. While I agree with that, what I just said, I don't, we shouldn't say nothing's happening. You know, nothing's changing. Everything's the same. I don't believe global warming is happening as a man-made thing, but Jesus said these things would be happening, and things are happening, and we need to get the right perspective on it, and which we're going to touch on here as we go along. Now, Look in verse 9 of Matthew 24.